Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Steve, and tonight I'm joined by this nerd.
Darkest Ted. How you doing this fine and lovely evening, sir?
It's Sunday, man. Sunday fun day. What's going on?
Sunday fun day. We're here to talk about snakes tonight. Some D&D ideas.
Not the kind the plumber uses either.
Snakes has got, a lot of different topics and there was some talk in-house and there was a suggestion to throw up of I could start the chat holding, a nice snake
Could
because
have draped you in some snakes.
we
I
have
mean, in one of the videos, is one video somewhere. There are definitely props that we've used.
because my son has three pet snakes that we were gonna do, and I'm like, yeah, that's too much work. I'm like, would I have to have a stage hand, i.e., the son
Yeah,
sitting,
yeah.
waiting for the handoff? I'm like, all right, I showed this.
That's why like ball pythons work really good. You just chuck it at you from across the room.
Yeah, I'm not gonna chuck a pet. That's just not gonna happen.
No, it's fine. They just ball up. As long as you catch it, it's fine. You're soft and squishy. It'll be okay.
Yeah,
That
but
should be a spell, man. Like ball python. It's like you bludgeon them with it, and then it like tries to enwrap encircle them.
that could be a thing.
It could definitely be a thing.
We've got our friendly neighborhood sorcerer, here in the chat.
Cool. So yeah, Zargon, Indiana Jones would not approve. Of course, that's one of the play. Well, I did consider finding like that gif, of Indiana Jones saying, "Why did it have to be snakes to share on Twitter?" But I just went with a bunch of snakes writhing together because snakes.
So there's definitely lots of things that you can do with snakes, beyond the typical, ye old regular beast or the awesome flying snakes that I know that you love.
I'm a huge fan of flying snakes, and I've started making use of them in our those bastards games. So Unga likes to carry around the sack. I mean, technically he's casting Conjure Animal, but I like to
Mhm.
pretend that he's carrying around the sack of flying snakes with him that he just lets out every once in a while.
And we've got the ability to kind of abuse um, their blind sight ability by me putting some darkness and let them just kind of go to town on something.
Yeah, we'll have to try that combo at some point. Although in that game it doesn't matter as much. I'm pretty sure when I used them, like Robin didn't have me roll attack rolls. They were just like, "Hey, do a bunch of poison damage."
I know I love Robin. They're a fantastic friend. The the combat is not the pillar of the game that they tend to focus on. So I'm okay with arbitration rules to just make combat a bit more streamlined.
Sargon, were you in that game? My first fan kill was the Maze of Mandoon, and at the very end, there's two doors. If you go to the wrong one, it's a pit trap full of flying snakes, and Ludwig is actually the character that fell into the pit trap and got bit a lot,
Got bit
and
a lot.
got bit a lot, and I was like, "This is how much damage you take." He's like, "I'm dead." I'm like, "Oh, you're down?" He's like, "No, I'm just dead." It was at the
Yeah,
very end, at least.
it happens sometimes, man.
It happens sometimes, yeah. I haven't killed any fans since then, or at least their characters, I should say.
I really hope that you haven't killed any fans because that would be very problematic for
Mhm.
us. So
I was not, but I love threatening my. Listen, the flying snake is a very underrated monster. It's got flyby attack. It's got a +6 to hit, and it also does 4 to 13 points of damage. I mean, now if you're immune to poison or resistant to poison, not as impressive. But all in all, it can't take a hit. It's got a glass jaw. But you throw a bunch of them in there, and then you could also have them attack in the darkness, and it doesn't affect their attacks, but it'll affect the attacks coming at them. I think I had a um, Beastmaster Ranger, Ara Croker, that had a flying snake as their beast companion.
Oh, sweet.
It is sweet, and actually they benefit greatly from the hit point bump, even from the very the very original Player's Handbook Ranger.
Right.
Actually, I have yet to use the upgraded version. Because I actually just want to use the animals.
Right.
I don't want their pretend animals.
You don't want the pretend
I
animals.
don't want their pretend animals.
Well, I've seen a lot of Beastmaster Rangers. I would say, categorically more Beastmaster Rangers than all the other Rangers combined. Just I don't know if it's the love of the pet or companion,
Yeah.
or just a matter of you know that's what that's what people are picking. But
It
I,
it is mostly inferior, but it's still fun.
it's still fun because we've got you as Unga, your Aarakocra that you're talking about. Then you've got um, actually was doing some
Did I say
research.
Eric Croker? It was a Kenko.
Oh, a Kenko, huh?
Yeah, it was my Kenko. His name was Get Out of Here. Because that's what the old lady that kind of adopted. So the idea was like he kind of got adopted by a woman that owned like some kind of, I don't know if it was like a plant store, like a florist shop, or if it was actually like a pet shop. But he came in with whatever shipment, and
Mhm.
then she unpacked him from a crate or whatever. And so she kind of took care of him, but she would always yell at him to get out of here. So he decided that's what his name was. And his flying snake companion was Hiss.
Yes, nice.
Yeah, but not Hiss. It was Hiss. So,
You've got Burke uh, from my Dungeons and Delving game.
yeah,
And there's been a handful of Beastmaster Rangers in the game that I've played with kids, just because it's a kids game. It's going to happen. So
I've played two different Beastmasters that have had a crab companion. I also played a Goblin. Uh, but so with the Goblin, the crab companion, Beast companion is awesome because it's a mobile platform from to shoot arrows from is how I used Shelly. Uh, Yeah, I think Get Out of Here. I only played in a one shot or maybe like a 1 to 3 shot, and then I have a handful of other Ranger characters I played because we also had the Saber Dice game where we were all halflings except for Will from Encounter Roleplay. He played a dwarf, but the rest of us were all halfling cousins, and that was a hunter ranger, and basically it was styled after Indiana Jones. It never really came up, but he did fight with a whip, so whip and short sword. Zargon, if an Aarakocra bred with a Yanti, their babies would be flying snakes. Their babies would be abominations, I think. Oh, they're saying you're muted. Oh no, they can't hear you. You are muted. Could have sworn I unmuted you.
all right, so I've been talking for 8 minutes and
Uh,
I haven't heard a damn thing I'm saying.
well, the funny thing is, it took someone that long to actually say you're muted.
Well, maybe they've been reading my lips. I
Oh
don't
no.
know. um yeah, I called out, Avram being the, friendly neighborhood sorcerer. I've talked about a variety of ranger things. Yeah, that could totally be a game. Things you've got ranger things.
Yeah, you got Ranger things. So in those bastards game, In those bastards game, the one of our big villains early on was Bird
Bird
Eater,
Eater. Yep.
which was just a giant constrictor, I believe. But I guess that would be pretty terrifying if you live in a bird city, and there's a giant constrictor that eats birds.
Yeah, that would be terrifying. And you know, Canopy. I want to call it Treetop, but Canopy's a cool place. I very much the setup there and
With
the
this tavern
aesthetics.
that has all day breakfast,
I mean, you can't go wrong with all day breakfast.
you can't go wrong with all day breakfast.
I am personally a huge fan of brunch and Brenner.
So, how would you use snakes in your game as a DM?
So snakes are one of those things that it has this kind of like global concept. We know that the Yonti are very much into you know ingraining themselves into other societies and being able to make changes. So you very much can play that kind of angle of things. And that can be at any kind of tier, and you've just got the ability to kind of level up or level down what your snake people are doing. Oh yeah, let's go ahead and have a um what do you call it, let's have the just any old stat block and just put the Yonti angle as part of it, and you've got the ability to go from there. Avram Kovacs talks about the snake hydra, and you could have a real one or a fake one, however you want to do it, because I've seen both iterations of the hydra of having actual legs or having the serpentine tails, and I've got minis for both versions.
Yeah, pick your
So I
flavor.
I could definitely play that angle up. But if you want to use a snake as a theme, but not actually use snakes, I did some homework here and I looked up a whole bunch of like snake idioms. And I'm not gonna read the whole page of them, but the thing that I've seen, like there's a handful that are that are pretty cool. Obviously, like slippery as a snake. If it had been a snake, it would have bitten you. What is it?
You need to make a character now that just uses those sayings all the time, and they've got to be. You got to like model them after like Steve Irwin. Like the best Steve Irwin I've ever seen was he was hunting, well, his version of hunting a spitting cobra,
Mhm.
and like it's like spitting venom in his face. He's like, "Oh, that burns! Oh, I better get me sunnies." He puts sunglasses on. He's like grabbing it by the tail and pulling it back onto the camera so you see. In the meantime, it's like hawking venom in his face.
but you've got a snake in the grass, snake's belly, and then of course like you've got the dice rolling of snake eyes. So like and that's just a handful of what's here, and we all know that Ted has
Yeah,
the
what about a dice game, man, where you use d6s and the next person to go
Mhm.
after Snake Eyes is rolled, like snakes come out of the Snake Eyes and bite their hand.
Oh geez. uh that could certainly be part of the thing, like a magic dice set or what have you. Or that's actually the game, and the dice themselves are enchanted to play that game. uh but looking at this whole aspect of snakes, I was thinking about just the snake oil salesman kind of thing, and I like to think of what's some good but different ways to start off a game. And like, what if you've got the snake oil salesman who's going around and he's basically just stopping by weird ponds and what have you and filling up little vials that he's selling as it does whatever. Well, what happens if the one time he actually finds a stream that has some like magical residue in it, and it actually produces some kind of effect. Well, then the people that get this thing are expecting it to do that thing. Well, what if it's different every time? Or, what if some things are good and some things are bad? So now it's actually producing some kind of an effect. So you've got some people raving that this guy is awesome and that, they absolutely got their money's worth, where other people are coming and complaining because they've had weird side effects and it's not doing what it says it's supposed to do. So like you still have that angle of it being, it's not entirely what he claimed, but it's doing something. So you've got, a fun investigative angle of finding the dude, tracking back to where he got it, figuring out what this stuff is. So like, a fun, cool adventure that's not about the actual combat of just can I beat the monster.
I think early on in the Scarlet Sisterhood, I feared a TPK from a random encounter, and
Oh, jeez.
it was just a Yanti abomination. But
Yeah.
I believe it was Vex, Kenna, and Agatha, and Agatha just scooped the other two of them up and began running away from the abomination. But it began chasing. But Vex just started hurling fireballs at it, so it became like a mobile turret essentially. I was like, wow, that went better than I was expecting.
I don't remember that specific example, but it's been a while since I watched those games. But from what I can remember about Agatha, I can totally picture her doing that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't believe it was a plan either. It was just with that group.
They
It was
were
a lot of fun.
they were a lot of fun characters to watch. So hey, if you're newer to Nerdarchy and you haven't gone and watched Dave's game of the Scarlet Sisterhood, go check it out. There's a whole bunch of sessions from years ago.
Yeah, I think there's some early episodes where the production's really rough, but it gets better as we go along. We figure things out.
And there's definitely some yo-yoing with players, but for the most part, Agatha and Kenna are there for the whole game, and you eventually get some more stable players to join. So it's all good.
It is all good. So I feel like in our own games we haven't done anything with snakes and the serpents in quite some time. I feel
Well,
like
in
maybe we did some more back in the day. Probably like third edition.
in my game, that it's I guess like my first iteration of the kids game that I kind of retired those characters.
Yeah.
For now, we may or may not come back to them. But our one deity was Shaylin Zier, and he kind of has an affiliation with snakes, being a like arc dragon, deals with like dreams and nightmares, but the the serpentine folk definitely dig that as a deity. um well, I had a character who was basically kind of in the middle where two deities were vying for his attention. It was Sheol and Zir and Balis, which is our nature and fey deity. So it was kind of like fun of like there was this one encounter where like two, well, like essentially a representative from each was kind of like going back and forth, um, and was like, all right, the player really hadn't made up their mind, and it was very much a different was one of those things where like the way that character decided at that moment was going to determine how like the next several sessions went. It's fun.
I almost forgot, but in the Shattered World game, I forget what we actually were calling that game.
Shattered Realm.
Nah, the Broken World game you ran when the world kind of blew up a little bit.
Oh, okay. The Curse of Zoltan.
Curses Zoltan game, yeah. Was the first one Curses Zoltan and the second one was
Second one was Repercussions.
Repercussion. So the second one, you had that city of snake folk.
Yeah, it's like Sashir, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And there were like several different things. So I basically wanted a uh, a different type of serpent folk, and I felt like there are numerous snakes that dwell in the desert. I'm like, all right, well, what if I created a serpentine race that is not at its core, oh, snakes are all evil. That's what it's got to
Yeah,
be.
well, yeah, a lot of them very much have that feel of evil snake cult,
Mm-hmm.
and these did not. You know, they lived in the
Oh,
city. They were their own people. I mean, their ruler was kind of a douche, but
well, right, but I mean,
but that wasn't everybody.
I don't want to get into a political rant, but I mean, a lot of times that's how things tend to go. And I'm doing some research, and I'll tangent for a moment, but it's very interesting how different cultures view different iconography. In like, now I'm doing some research for an article that I'm going to write, and this is probably no big surprise to some, but it's going to be about frogs. Uh,
Oh my
but
god,
like
no more frogs.
there's going to be more frogs because that happens. But in like in our culture, frogs are seen as slippery and they give warts and there's all this crap that has nothing to do with frogs. We're in like other parts of the world. Frogs are considered good luck. Frogs are like seen as a symbol of wealth. So like you can actually find statues that were like where frogs are holding gold coins, or the whole statue is made of, not real gold, but like they're painted gold because they have that affiliation. So I was looking in the same thing with snakes, and snakes kind of have that same thing. It just depends upon where you go. And here there's a lot of things that snakes are viewed as this like aggressive and dangerous and venomous and blah blah blah, when other cultures are like, oh, snakes are awesome, they're our friends, people keep us as pets all the time. So
Yeah, some cultures are symbols of fertility, I believe. Um, well, it's funny too. Like anecdotally, friends of ours went, went overseas,
mhm.
and there was a giant snake, and one of our friends was like, "I need a shovel because I'm going to cut the snake's head off," and they're like, "No, we don't do that. We don't do that here. We leave the snakes alone." And Carlos was like, "But the snake is not leaving me alone." So I need a shovel.
I mean, but like I said, so you've got
Yeah.
different culture. So like I can't accept that, oh well, in D&D, if it's a frog or if it's a snake, it's a bad thing. I'm like, no, I'm going another direction.
Well, I didn't know frogs had the negative uh, incantate. What's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, I worked today and it was a long day.
Negative connotations.
That's the word. Negative connotations. All
I
the
mean,
syllables were there. They were just not coming out in the right order.
it's all right. It's been a long weekend for myself as well. I was able to get a couple brain cells to collide with just the right information. I mean, like if you just look at the D&D lore, and this is supposed to be about snakes, not frogs, but you've got the Gripply, they're evil. You've got the Grung, they're evil. You got the Bullywug, they're
No, no,
evil.
no. The Gripplies were not evil.
Are you sure?
I am positive they were
All right.
like frog fate little critters.
All right. There's the
The Bullywogs and Grungs, I think, were pretty much it. And yeah, the Bullywog is like the OG, and the Grung is like the new shiny, cooler version of the Bullywog.
but then you've got the Slod that are evil. There's a Toad demon, out there as well. I pulled up a whole bunch of things when I was doing my
Yeah.
earlier research. So there's plenty of things that definitely point Frog and Toad as the bad guy. And
I
I'm like,
I guess also toads and frogs are sometimes associated with gluttony.
hmm.
I mean, there are those frogs that will literally eat themselves to death. Well, they'll try and eat things that are way too big for them, but they're like, "I will eat this whether it kills me or not." Yeah,
No. But so
you ever seen the Pac-Man frogs?
yes.
Yeah, I think my dad used to keep those, and they just reminded me of like a garbage can you would step on and the mouth would open, and you would just like insert food into them. But
Uh,
like snakes eat frogs, so you could also like you could do a whole thing where you could do evil frogs, and the guardian snakes are the ones that try and hold them at bay.
That could be a whole thing.
You could combine your love of frogs with snakes.
I mean, my daughter likes frogs. My son likes snakes. I am running a swamp heavy game at the moment, so I'm still deciding, where that campaign is gonna, shake out eventually. Obviously, it's gonna be some encounters in the swamp, uh, but it's gonna be fun.
I'm surprised we haven't seen more use of Yanti in our games.
I feel like it's a commitment. If you're gonna use them, like you're not doing the random encounter. I feel like there's got to be more to it.
I totally did the random encounter. That's the only time I really remember using Yanti.
Like they're heavy on the political undertones.
Yeah,
They're great at espionage and all of that kind of stuff.
infiltration. Yeah,
And I feel like if you're gonna do that, like it's got to be a certain style of game. And you could just be like, oh, we encountered these things, we stopped this thing, it ends there, and you move on.
yeah. Had the Scarlet Sisterhood, had they decided that that was important and they wanted to investigate that, who knows where that would have gone.
Well, I mean that's the great thing about your style of GMing is you throw as much spaghetti on the walls and whatever sticks, and then the players decide to chase that thread, and that's where you go. And you don't care as much about the rest of the stuff because that's somebody else's story.
Yeah, I mean it's just easier to kind of do what they want to do,
Yeah,
figure it out from there.
I'm quite happy with that as well.
So, what do you think? What do you think about a snake themed dungeon that doesn't have anything to do with Yanti, and maybe putting a different spin on it? How would you go about it?
So a non Yonti themed snake dungeon. I mean, you could have uh, you know, a cult of druids behind it. You could have a cult of priests behind it. You don't necessarily have to have cult as part of it. It could just be somebody who instead of the crazy cat lady, you've got the crazy snake hermit. Um, who's just got this dungeon infested with whatever kind of slithering reptile it can get its hands on, and what maybe it's a maybe it's like its own bizarre twisted nature preserve, and he's cultivated the land and actually goes and tries to lure in prey just to feed his snakes, but maybe he's got some the ability to communicate with them or has built a rapport with them that they don't bother him, but anybody else that wanders in is fair game. I think that could be a lot of fun.
I feel like I don't feel like there's not as many snake gods in D&D as there should be.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Though I like Zargon's suggestion of the Yonti goblin that sells snakeskin boots.
That's just wrong.
That's funny though.
So apparently they added a snake deity to the Forgotten Realms later during the spell plague, which was a very weird time in D&D anyway.
Yeah,
And it's one. So I'm not as familiar with that deity as you hear.
I'm not familiar with that one either.
Like I feel like maybe we need to create like some kind of Eldritch horror style snake deity, serpent deity. Could be fun. Nagas are great monsters, especially the ones that don't actually die.
Yeah, Nagas are a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the one flavor of them are nearly impossible to kill. They could just keep coming back. So, what did you use for your stats for your snake folk? And did you have a name for them, or were they just snake folk?
You know, I I don't know if I
Bless
had
you.
an. It's been a long time since I've run that game, so I'm a quick drop my phone on the ground while I look this up.
Yeah. Well, I guess we ran like I guess I've been running for like 7, 8 months now with that group. So it's been that long. So we're probably closing in on a year since we were in that particular part of the story. So I guess that was a while ago. Do you remember what inspired you to add them into the game?
I don't. I just wanted to do something different. So um, the the what do you call it? So Sashir was the name of like the human kingdom. The
Mm.
core kingdom was where the snake men were, and I just called them the snake men. They they didn't they didn't have any other name. The king was Kearme. So yeah, I'm not really not saying anything other than snake men.
So I feel like you had like more of a storyline that was planned there, and we're like, this seems like snake people problems to us. So we just like
Well, I mean,
moseyed on.
I've taken that feather from your cap. Like I'll put threads out there, and whatever people decide to chase is what I'm going to care about. And I many years ago, I game where I plotted and planned, and if players didn't chase a thread, I still continued that thread onward.
Uh huh.
And it's like I'm over prepping, over planned in so doing because I just say things happen. There's no dice rolling. There's no whatever. The villains were so much more productive than the players. And I'm like, yeah, this is not going well. Like, I don't know how this is gonna go.
What
Um,
players not being productive? I don't know what you're talking about.
so I had to. I've learned my lesson from that. That I'm like, I don't do that anymore now. It's like, all right, I'm gonna put things in front of the players where they are, and whatever they decide to mosey and play along with, that's what's there. Everything else, don't care. And it makes for a lot more fun, planning, and I throw things out and have fun.
So
Absolutely, all kinds of stuff that could have been done in the Coral Kingdom if you guys had chose to chase that down. You did
we
a big
didn't.
deal.
Like I said, that was snake people problems.
Sure. There's always, for high level adventures, there's always problems that, you know, could be called into question, but if you don't chase them down, you don't chase them down.
So what do you think about a snake villain? What do you think would make a good snake villain? Maybe not so much stats or mechanics or any particular monster, but for an evil big bad.
So if you're gonna do an evil big bad and like you're looking at a snake theme, I'm gonna throw that deception's got to be a part of it. It could be a great thing too, whether you're using Yonti or like somebody who's not actually a snake, just more the snake concept. You could definitely go with the direction of like he's somebody who has been friendly with the players the entire time. Maybe they're giving him information and maybe he's even the quest giver. And it's like all of a sudden, like at some point in time, it's like, all right, thanks. You guys have been a big help. you know, the reveal happens and this is
So what about like what about the snake big bad is actually really just a snake? But
Mhm.
like whether you want to go with the route of it was magically awakened or it was blessed with sentience and consciousness from some other means. Uh, it drank from an enchanted uh, fountain, or and is just incredibly long lived. Like it's essentially immortal in the
Mhm.
sense that it won't die of old age. So it's been around a long time, and it's become awakened to a higher level of consciousness, and over time, it's
So,
learned it's learned magic, and is also now a shapeshifter, right? And to go along with your idea and concept of deception, and it could be the quest giver, and has the players doing fetch quests for it.
you could definitely do, something along those lines. When you start talking about something that is that kind of ancient, like maybe it's looking for something that is a specific piece that it needs to complete, you know, some even darker ritual or whatever have you to have it, get access to more power. This is totally a tangent, but it, crossed into my mind. And it would be a very cool visual that, I don't know how well you remember Men in Black, but the bug from that movie, like when he gets injured or whatever have you, like cockroaches are coming out of his clothes and whatnot. I think it'd be very cool to, instead of it bleeding, this giant snake is bleeding tiny snakes that just kind of like fall and slither away. They're not there to attack people, but it's spreading more snakes as this thing is being injured. I think could be a very stop and make people think WTF moment, if you will.
I mean, it could be creating snake swarms, but which might be fun as well. But also, like visually, I like kind of along those lines. I kind of think of it too as like when it reveals itself from its shape shifted form, much like a snake, it just sheds the skin of whatever form it had before, and basically out the mouth, this big snake just keeps pouring, until
Yep.
it just leaves behind a skin suit. Which I mean, if you go to Ravenloft, there's even stats for like animating that if you wanted to. um,
I know I know Reaper Miniatures has like a giant, and it's again it's something that's over there. I could if I could just yeah. Um
Mage hand it.
yeah, but there's a pretty sizable giant, or it's like huge or beyond huge, and I just have it painted up to be like a statue.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but it's a pretty cool thing, and that could fit into the this snake is so massive that it can just eat people because it's been alive for so long.
You need a second one so you can have one painted up as a statue and one painted up as a snake, so that you
Mm,
can use the statue version and then then you swap them out when something happens.
right, that could certainly be a thing.
It could be a thing. Just what you need, more minis. You don't have enough.
I don't.
But yeah, so like, and then I was kind of thinking like, what if there's more than one of them, right? And like the reason why they get involved personally is because it's a game to them.
Mm,
Like they're playing a game against another opponent, and it's maybe someone or something that's just as long lived as they are, maybe something else that ate or drank from the same fountain and awakened.
right.
Maybe they're from the same brood. They could be siblings.
They could be siblings. They could be competing. Now perhaps it's a situation where the stream was, and this is gonna be kind of corny, but like the stream was a limited thing, and it's all Highlander style, where they are essentially immortal, but they can be killed by others that have drunk from the same, because they're in essence consumed by the other. So you could have two things that are either straight up competing against each other or trying to stay away. Like one's trying to stay away while the other one is kind of hunting, and like the players could just get in the middle of it all.
Well, they probably seek out adventurers because they make good cat's paws, good
Mm-hmm.
tools, and also maybe they like the challenge of trying to manipulate adventurers more so than any other kind of pawn.
Well, I mean that's because like, adventurers don't typically have routes that are tied down, and like it plays into the angle that, well, with snakes is that, that line of deception. So it's a lot of fun.
So we're like three quarters through this thing, and there is a couple of things we should bring up, real fast. Our sponsor for our live chats is Easy Roller Dice, and you can find in the description a coupon code for your first purchase for them. It's like 25% off. It's a really good discount. So you should check them out. You can help support us by supporting the sponsors. Also, if you've ever wanted to play D&D with Ted or myself in a castle, next July 8th through the 12th, you have an opportunity to do such. The tables still have some openings left, so if you want to take advantage of that, now would be a good time before all those seats get filled. We would love to game with you in a castle. We got some epic stuff we've got planned, so you can check that out. All those links are in the description, so you can check them out at your leisure. And also there's a link for Zoo Mafia. If you guys haven't checked it out, you can sign up for the newsletter and get the quick start rules for free. In our first live playtest, we did have a snake, a constrictor named Eve as our grifter, our face character in the mob in the gang. And also, we're just coming off of PAX Unplugged last week, so we got to run some Zoo Mafia for some new folks as well.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun. I didn't see any more snakes hit the pavement, if you will, with that one, but it's cool to see the animals stretching out and still, not seeing a huge amount of like, lions, tigers, and bears.
Oh
So
my! I
I
did see an elephant.
who played the elephant?
Carlos played an elephant named Trunks.
Okay.
So it was
He's
a lot
he's
of
now
fun.
had a chance to play a number of sessions. So uh, we should certainly
He's
pick.
a veteran. I think he's got 3 sessions under his belt. He should start
Yep,
running it now.
I think so as well. I think we need to make that happen.
Did we fight a giant snake in the desert, or was that a worm?
That was a worm. That was a that was one of my handcrafted minis.
Yeah, yeah. It's pretty close to a snake,
Yeah,
especially at that size.
worms and snakes aren't too terribly far off.
I will say, I think Venkus was he's taken the form of a giant constrictor a few times. I mean, I believe they can climb and swim, so they become pretty useful, and they just have a
Who,
lot of hit points.
who,
Like
who is that?
Venkus, in the Saber Dice game that
Oh, okay.
Guy Sklenders ran, but like a giant constrictor has like 60 hit points. It's like one of the highest for the CR.
Hmm. Well, that's one of the cool things between like whether you're looking at rangers or druids, the what you can get or what you can turn into. Like if you're looking at those stats, like that should be, look at armor classes, look at hit points, let's look at special abilities. You can have a lot of fun with, all right, how can I maximize this angle? How can I maximize that angle? But Yuria Nava brings up another concept of the snake charmer. I think that's another thing that whether you're
I think we did a Snake Charmer character build,
I think you may be right, but
uh, but not that kind of Snake Charmer. I think it was an enchanter Yanti. But
like the turning it back. So like, what if there's a snake that actually charms other things, and maybe that's where that expression came from.
well, I believe there's a snake that like hypnotizes birds. With its gaze, and then that's how it kind of hunts. We also have a
So like,
couple. We have a couple That's a real life thing too. That's not a D&D thing.
Not the cartoon Robin Hood snake charmer.
No. Well, also, I mean, the first one I recollect is would probably be Khan from Jungle Book.
Oh, it's Jungle Book, not Robin Hood.
I think it's a common trope though. We've got um we've got a couple of articles on the website too with snake magic. Some that me and you did because we did a video about Six of Snakes. But also Eli has a couple articles over there using snake magic and going in a different direction, which is pretty cool. So I'm just throwing those links right in the chat. If people want to check them out, they can. It's pretty cool. I saw a comment about quarter worms. Yeah, quarter worms did not have a lot of snakes in it.
It's reptiles more than snakes. I mean, well, reptiles. Snakes are reptiles, but I mean, it's about dragons, the worm, not the
Yeah,
not.
but they also might be referring to the first quarter worm series that I had run for Saver Dice. I did like a half a season with quarter worms,
Okay.
and those games were a little bit different than. Although I feel like I did do some kind of giant shadow snake thing that one of the characters that Jacob ended up banishing.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was pretty climatic too. Like, and the banishment lasted just long enough for them to do a ritual to get out of like this like shadow realm that they kind of got shunted into where the thing was. So it was like it came back, reappeared, like lunging for them as they completed the ritual to teleport out.
That's crazy.
So yeah, that was the only one I can remember. I think I used in that game, and then in our game, I can't remember. There might have been some encounters with snakes, from Carlos's character's dad, basically.
We fought more dinosaurs than anything else.
There was definitely dinosaurs, but I feel like you guys had a conversation with a snake
It's possible.
because I think the snakes were like spying on you guys, and and then finally, either Carlos's character or no, it was Tally's character because he was playing. I think he was playing a Yanti Druid, and was like, "I will just talk to them."
Because you do that.
You do that when you're a Yanti. So yeah, so there was a little bit of snakes, but yeah, it was a lot more Lost Land kind of dinosaurs and focusing on dragons. Although maybe if we revisit, maybe we'll do more with snakes.
I mean, you've got that capacity with the setting being Dragonborn and Yonti and turtles. Am I missing anything else?
Kobolds.
Kobolds.
How could you forget the kobolds?
How can you forget the kobolds?
And some lizard folk. You played a lizard folk. So what's that?
The oddball.
Yeah, but I feel like there are more of them in that setting than just your characters. So.
I just meant Skeggs was an oddball.
Well, yeah, but the artificer lizardfolk is a little bit of a uncommon character build, I would say.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun to play. Greatly love that game.
I mean, you could have removed Critter's legs, and he could have been a snake, a bone serpent.
Yeah, Critter was uh, my artificer companion, and he was a six-legged lizard that was made of bone and sinew and stuff. Kind of creepy.
Yeah, I always like envisioned them almost being like a crocodile with too many legs.
Yeah,
I don't know how you pictured him.
I mean, he was a medium-sized creature that bit things, so a crocodile would have worked for him. I think I was looking at like a lizard folk skull skeleton for the mini that I was trying to build,
Uh-huh.
but that was just I couldn't get a 3D designer to design me one, and for whatever reason, my glue when I cut things apart was just not gluing well, so I kind of gave up. So I've got a bag of parts somewhere,
Oh
which
no,
fit with
critter.
Skeggs because Skeggs does that.
Well, I mean, you could just throw them on the table and be like, "This is after a battle," because that's happened a few times.
That is very true.
He got broken a couple times, but on the plus side, you did it.
Yep, but I mean,
So, and also, Skeggs wasn't very attached to much of anyone or anything. So,
that was the thing. Like, I went with that, kind of reptilian mindset that he didn't have that typical attachment. When I first made, my companion, at first I wasn't going to give him like a static name. It was just
uh,
whatever I felt like calling him at the time. But when I use the same name like a couple times in a row, I'm like, oh crap. Oh well, I guess it's stuck
it's
now.
got a name now.
Um,
It was funny. It's the creature. See
yeah,
now, my battlesmith was very fond
kangaroo.
his steel defender or iron defender. I always forget which is which. So he would
Yeah,
probably
still better.
definitely he'd probably definitely let one of the other party members croak before he let Thomas die.
It's the great part about the game is you've got the ability to kind of make those changes. Um, and have that snake-like emotional detachment, or you can totally get into it and be like, no. I was like, all right, I guess I gotta expend a resource here. As we're kind of getting into our last 10 minutes, there was a cool monster that I wanted to throw out that I would like to know more about. But the Commodon, it's a feline predator that resembles a leopard with six snakes sprouting from its shoulders. And like the only lore about it, is like, oh, it bears a passing resemblance to the Splicer beast. The creatures are not related. They hunt in alone or in mated pairs. And then there's the mechanics on like, oh, they like to exhale poisonous gas. And if they're encountering enemies that are conscious and unconscious, they attack the conscious ones first. So that they deal with the actual threat. Um, but I'm like, I don't remember where these things, came up, but feel like they're a newer monster.
They aren't.
They aren't.
Nah, I'm pretty sure that was the old Fiend and Folio. Um, from AD&D. I like I
Okay.
remember I remember the black and white artwork for it.
All right. Well, I stand corrected then. Now, is this another one of those, from earlier editions? The Crazy Wizard did it. Like
Yeah, I don't remember. Where did you find that at?
that's on D&D Beyond. It is in the Tome of Annihilation.
Okay. Because I did just a general snake search.
Yeah, and if
Uh,
you
and
scroll down far enough,
yeah, but I
um,
sorted by monsters,
hmm.
and that's probably why it didn't come up.
Okay, I just did a general search. Um,
So you might find more on the lore if you kind of just Googled the monster at
no,
AD
I'm
and
on
D.
I'm on the monsters page. Oh, okay. If you Googled it, sure.
Yeah, yeah. So you might be able to get, whatever was written in the original Fiend and Folio. I think it was the Fiend and Folio that it was in. All that weird stuff generally came from the Fiend and Folio. for some reason. Also, like we didn't even talk about like I feel like this the there's a couple staffs that were kind of iconic in early editions. The staff of the Python. And I feel like there was another one. Oh yeah, the staff of the Adder. The one you could like throw it on the ground and it would turn into a constrictor, a giant constrictor, and attack for you. And the other one was you beat them with the staff, but then the head would just come alive and try and bite them.
Okay.
I mean, because they were from like AD&D, and they have. There's definitely a lot of like early spells and magic items that seem kind of biblical to me.
Sure.
So if you wanted to have snake flavored weapons or implements, you could add them into your game.
So on the Forgotten Realms wiki, there's a notable Commodon, which is one of the 9 trickster gods of Chult, was Shagambi, and was a wise and virtuous Commodon. And if I look at the typical D&D wiki, it's just got some weird stat information, but
Yeah,
no
yeah, because
actual
I
lore
remember it. It's got like six, right? It's got six snakes jutting out of its
out of
around
its
its head,
shoulders, essentially.
basically.
Yeah, around it. They come out of its shoulders. Yeah, it's a cool looking monster. Um,
Gross. It's gross.
I would call it the poor man's displacer beast with the not having the cool super long tentacles, not the extra limbs.
Yeah, I find like anything that where like this like the snakes instead of hands, that kind of stuff always creeps me out so
Well,
much.
I mean that's kind of what you're looking for. You're looking to kind of like put something down on the table and make someone go, oh,
Yeah, I want to make them go. I don't want to go.
well, I mean, if you're the DM, you know it's coming.
Doesn't matter. Like, oh, that's gross.
All right. Well, whatever.
Although that would be kind of a good kind of like random encounter when the players are kind of bedding down for the night to have like
mm,
have one of them awoken to like a snake slithering across them, not even attacking them, just like slithering across their neck or something.
mm,
Especially like I don't know, it's kind of hard to do in D&D because everything's so gamified. But
right.
like for someone to wake up and to feel that slithering and like have the snake right in their face, it's like if you move, it's going to bite you, which is far more scary in real life than in D&D.
Right.
In D&D, you're like, ooh, what's it gonna do? Die 6 hit points to my face. As long as you have 1 hit point, it don't matter. You're good.
Right.
So, but it could be some, there might be some cool things you could do with that. Pardon me. Uh, I also, again, I do like the pit traps full of snakes. I feel like I used to use those a lot more before I started gaming with you guys
Mm-hmm.
than since our group's been together. Just because like the idea of like falling into a dark pit and you just feel that with a muffled thump because of all the snakes under you, and then you're laying there, and then all of a sudden they start like moving.
Mm.
Oh, and then probably biting you, but still,
Yeah.
it's just like the thought of like undulating snakes under a carpet of undulating snakes under me is just so gross.
Yeah, I would say that could be seriously problematic, possibly panic inducing.
That's like if you're playing like the old school Ravenloft game that should require a horror check.
Yeah. Oh man, horror checks. That's a whole thing.
Yeah, a blast from the past. So we're right around the hour mark. Any final thoughts before we head on out, Ted?
I mean, there's definitely plenty of awesome snake stuff that's out there. Try to shake things up and let things play a different way. Be a Yonti that's not attached to the society, and you're trying to change the image. You're trying to spread the good word of a positive snake deity. Who knows?
Instead of the evil snake sex cult, you could have a good snake sex cult. That was like a line from a web DM video, like way back when, and I'm like, what the hell are you thinking, Jim Davis? But it was hilarious. On that note, we'll be back Tuesday night for some those bastards. We're getting closer to the end, so join us for that. We'll be back Friday for another live chat. DM Brimstone is going to be hanging out with me. Uh, and, come check out the normal videos that we drop Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays here on the channel. Till next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.